This wasn't supposed to be a headline day. No protests outside Parliament, no emergency vote, no national address, just another debate, another bill, another routine session in the Australian Senate. But within minutes, everything derailed. Not because of terrorism, not because of policy, not because of national security, but because one sentence crossed a line that Parliament rarely admits even exists. And the moment it happened, the entire chamber froze. Senators stopped listening to the bill, the chair stopped tolerating excuses, and the word racist was spoken inside Parliament without hesitation. At the centre of it all was Pauline Hanson, and what followed wasn't just uncomfortable, it was explosive. Before we go any further, pause for 1 second. If you're watching this from Australia, comment AUS below. If you're watching from anywhere else, comment where you are. This debate isn't just Australian anymore, because what happened next raises a question every democracy eventually has to face. Where does free speech end and responsibility begin? And once that line is crossed, who decides? On paper, the topic was serious. A counter-terrorism bill, national security, public safety, the kind of legislation that usually triggers dry speeches and rehearsed talking points. Most Australians wouldn't even notice it happened. And that's important, because it shows how fast things can spiral when personalities take over policy. Pauline Hanson rose to speak. That alone already shifted the mood. Lover or hater, Hanson doesn't fade into the background. She never has. Her political career has been built on friction, on confrontation, on saying the thing others won't or refuse to. Supporters call it honesty. Critics call it provocation. But everyone agrees on one thing. When Pauline Hanson speaks, the room listens. At first, it sounded like a policy argument. Immigration, national loyalty, security concerns. Normal, familiar ground. Then the focus shifted, not to the bill, not to terrorism, but to another senator. And that's where the tension snapped. If you've ever felt a conversation suddenly turn cold, you know the feeling. That moment when everyone realises this just crossed somewhere dangerous. That's exactly what happened next, and what Hanson said would instantly change the direction of the entire day. Pauline Hanson directed her remarks toward Senator Mehreen Faruqi. Not her policies, not her voting record, her identity. Within seconds, senators reacted, not quietly, not subtly, open outrage. Language like racially charged and inappropriate echoed across the chamber. This wasn't political theatre anymore. This was raw. One senator stood and demanded Hanson withdraw her comments immediately. Not later, not after clarification, now. And here's why that matters. Inside Parliament, words aren't just opinions. They're recorded, they're binding, they set precedent. So when another senator publicly labels remarks as racist on the Senate floor, that's nuclear-level language. It tells you just how serious the moment had become. And instead of pulling back, Hanson leaned in. She argued she was stating facts. She brought up international issues, she referenced Israel, Pakistan, immigration. She framed it as concern for Australia. But something crucial was happening at the same time. The presiding officer kept interrupting again and again and again. Each time the message was clearer, you're crossing the line. And here's where most people misunderstand what Parliament actually allows. So let's break it down. In Australian Parliament, you can attack ideas all day. Policies, laws, arguments. That's democracy. But there's a hard rule. You cannot make personal attacks based on identity, background, or character. That's not a suggestion, it's a standing order. And when the chair says something is out of order, it's not opinion, it's enforcement. The presiding officer repeatedly told Hanson to resume her seat, to refer to Senator Faruqi by her correct name, to stop making personal reflections. Warnings escalated. Then came the moment that changed everything. Hanson suggested that if a senator didn't truly love Australia, they should effectively leave. That's when the chair shut it down. Immediately, ruled out of order, directed, not asked, to withdraw the statement. This distinction matters. When a presiding officer requests a withdrawal, there's room to maneuver. When they direct it, compliance is mandatory. No debate, no justification, no delay. And yet, Hanson didn't withdraw. She paused. She said, "Let me think about it." You could feel the frustration build. The chair reminded her, this isn't optional. Standing orders applied to everyone, government, opposition, crossbench, no exceptions. But Hanson kept arguing she was speaking for millions of Australians. This is where the chamber split cleanly in two, and it's why this moment exploded far beyond a normal debate. Before we continue, quick check. If you believe politicians should always follow parliamentary rules, tap like. If you think rules silence uncomfortable truths, stay with me. This gets complicated. To Hanson supporters, this moment looked familiar. A politician saying what others are too afraid to say, calling out immigration concerns, questioning loyalty. From that perspective, she wasn't attacking a person, she was voicing fears shared by everyday Australians, and in their eyes, she was being silenced for it. But critics saw something very different. They saw a senator targeting another member based on background, ignoring repeated instructions, disregarding the rules that protect parliamentary integrity. To them, this wasn't courage, it was recklessness. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Both sides believe they're defending democracy. That's what makes moments like this dangerous, because once debate stops being about policy and starts being about identity, everything escalates. And Parliament isn't designed to survive that for long. This wasn't a misunderstanding, it wasn't a slip of the tongue, it was a direct test of authority, and the chair had no choice but to respond. What happened next is rare and telling. After repeated warnings, the chair made the call. Hanson lost the floor. In plain terms, she wasn't allowed to keep speaking. This doesn't happen often. It's one of the strongest tools the chair has. It signals that debate has completely broken down. The counter-terrorism bill was forgotten. The chamber was now locked in a fight over conduct, respect, rules, boundaries. And that's the real damage, because when personality overshadows policy, democracy suffers. But here's the twist. For Pauline Hanson, controversy isn't collateral damage, it's fuel. She has built an entire political career on moments exactly like this. Burqa protests, court rulings, public clashes. Each one keeps her in headlines. Each one energizes her base. And in modern politics, attention equals power. So whether you agree with her or not, this incident achieved one undeniable outcome. Everyone is talking. If you're still watching at this point, drop a comment with one word, line, as in where do you think the line should be, because that's the real issue underneath all of this. This wasn't an isolated moment. Hanson has a long history of pushing parliamentary limits. From symbolic protests to inflammatory rhetoric, controversy follows her. And courts have weighed in before. Past rulings found some of her comments breached anti-racism laws. That context matters because it frames this clash not as a surprise, but as part of a pattern. And patterns change how institutions respond. Parliamentary standards exist for a reason, not to make debate polite, but to keep it functional. Once those standards erode, everything becomes personal. And once everything is personal, policy dies. This is why the chair took such a hard stance. You could hear it in their voice. This wasn't theatre anymore. This was enforcement. And enforcement always angers someone. Australians are already divided on immigration, on identity, on what it means to belong. Moments like this don't calm those tensions, they amplify them. Supporters feel validated. Opponents feel alarmed. Social media explodes. Soundbites spread faster than facts. And suddenly, a counter-terrorism bill becomes irrelevant. That should worry everyone, because when governance becomes spectacle, trust erodes. And without trust, democracy becomes noise. This isn't about liking or disliking Pauline Hanson. It's about whether Parliament can still function as a space for ideas, not personal warfare. Strong debate is healthy. Tough questions are necessary. But once debate turns racial or personal, the damage spreads far beyond one speech. If you've ever felt politics is getting louder but less productive, you're not imagining it. This moment proved it. So, what does this all mean? Was this fearless representation? Or did it cross a line Parliament should never allow crossed? That's not a question the Senate can answer for you. It's one every voter has to decide. Because moments like this shape the future of political culture. They tell politicians what's rewarded, what's punished, and what gets attention. And attention in today's politics is everything. This wasn't just another day in the Senate. It was a warning about how fragile standards become when emotions run high, about how easily policy gets buried under personality, and about how divided Australian politics truly is. If this debate is any sign of what's ahead, things aren't getting quieter, they're getting louder. Before you go, one last thing. If this video made you think differently about free speech in Parliament, share it with someone who disagrees with you. That's where real debate starts. And I'll see you in the comments.